here in São Paulo, Brazil. And I want to get into a serious subject right now because a lot of people are in a position where they're trying to figure out, whether they should stay in the U.S., whether it's a good place to be right now with everything going on and all of the kind of shifting around of things and the way the government is reprioritizing and deprioritizing other things that are important, just for citizens of the U.S. in general, and just how weird it has gotten and unstable. I know a lot of folks are like, what are we doing? So I wanted to get on here and talk a little bit. I'm gonna pull up some notes because it's a lot of information to cover, y'all. But for those of you who are wondering, because you hear about so many of these this project, that, all these different documents, but that Trump and his administration have, been kind of doing their think tanks around so that they can decide how to run things. But the document that is on the state.gov, or the website that I forget what website I found it on actually, but the document that is the most interesting that I think we need to discuss most importantly right now in regards to how it impacts and affects. I'm going to focus today on Latin America because it is a global plan. It is called the 2025 National Security Strategy. Okay. And I want to focus on Latin America and the Caribbean, which is considered the Western Hemisphere, along with Canada and the United States and parts of, Hawaii, even Greenland, all of these different places. But these areas are considered and have been considered since the original Monroe Doctrine in the earlier 1900s as the kind of like the playground in the backyard of the United States. And so they've always felt like they had some kind of control over these countries, particularly in Latin America. And so, for those of you who haven't done a lot of historical research and don't understand, a lot of the countries, particularly here in South America and Central America, were under regime rulership by dictators at points, all through the 70s, 60s, 80s, that were installed and assisted into power by the United States. So the United States had its hands in everything down here. And so what is going on for those who are trying to figure out what the hell Trump is up to? They have their national security strategy, and one of its main principles, and there's a lot of principles, but one of its main focuses right now is that they want to reinstate the Monroe Doctrine, which makes them basically the geopolitical rulers of all of these nations from the Caribbean on down and to the West. So that's all of Latin America, the Caribbean, all of these countries will be under the dictatorship basically of the United States. We're going to say it for like what it is, right? So basically, the U.S. is saying that these regions are our priority again. They're shifting their attention back to the Western Hemisphere after years of being wrapped up. They've been in the Middle East, they've been in Europe, they've been in Asia. They're not really as directly in Africa. So a lot of the things that they've been doing in Africa has been with a hidden hand, right? So basically, they are trying to pretend like they're done so-called babysitting the world, which really is not. It hasn't ever been about that. It's been about global hegemony and ruling the world. And so but their energy was scattered about in other places as Latin America began to have its own, its own governments, its own systems in place. Latinos, in particular, down here in South America, have always had kind of a leaning towards a more um, I would say maybe egalitarian type of way of rule. So they were always breaking free and had their own kind of attempts to really live in a more fair society. But because of American influence and interference, we have constantly been down here causing problems, stirring up trouble. I mean, in every nation. I mean, doing it in Colombia, doing it in Venezuela right now. Look what's happening in Venezuela. Everybody's just like, oh, Venezuela, Venezuela. It's all about the oil. They just want the oil. No, the U.S. is not in need of oil on that level. It's not like a neediness for oil. Okay, they want oil. They want control. They want control of the region. They want control over these countries down here, and there's a reason for it. So we about to get into it. And I am in Brazil, so all of this is very pertinent to me because when I'm not in Brazil, I'm usually like up in the Caribbean anyway, which we know is being used as like an in between right now. So let's get into it. So the modern Monroe Doctrine, okay, which is all about Trump being able to put his lasting legacy down for reinstating and being able to take power back over this region that they feel like is being interfered with right now by China, by Russia, by Iran, other powers. Okay, that whole the whole updated Monroe Doctrine is, a spin on the original one, which was from 18. It's really from the 1800s, and it was all about running Europe out of the Americas, making sure Europe wasn't, having a continued lasting power over any of the nations down here, over any of the islands, over any Latin countries, right? So now what they want to do is the updated version is we don't want none of these countries doing a whole lot of business with China, Russia, Iran. And we, at the end of the day, they have done this whole BRICS versus NATO, this whole pitting of these different entities against each other. As y'all know, BRICS, which Brazil is a part of, is coming out with their own currency, all of these different things. So they've been pitting these entities against each other, but we really don't know how much of this is like, facade. Because to me, it looked like a lot of these world powers just work together, really, even though they try to act like they're, big enemies and what have you. But so what's happening is China has overtaken the U.S., way richer than the U.S., is a huge global power, will do trade with anyone, doesn't come in with all of this haughty, cocky, oh, you do things our way or it's the highway type of shit. They do trade in a way that's more attractive to other countries, and so now they're doing so much trade everywhere that and they're so much richer because remember, America is a country that's completely in debt, just an incredible debt. And so they're so much richer than the U.S. right now. The U.S. is feeling very threatened about them. And what is really setting this off right now is that they are in Venezuela. They are down there. They have some of their military equipment. They're there. They're in Venezuela because they have a lot of investments in Venezuela. So you have China and Venezuela, you have Russia and Venezuela, and those are two major BRICS powers. Another BRICS power in the region is Brazil, and so you have them, those allies. They're trying to support Venezuela while the U.S. is down there bombing fishing boats out of the water. Okay, so we're dealing with them trying to reimpose this Monroe Doctrine over the region by utilizing different ports in the Caribbean, such as Trinidad and Tobago, such as the U.S. Virgin Islands, where we usually live, such as Puerto Rico, and all of these in between places as places to stage for war staging and to prepare for actual warfare. So you have this going on, and a lot of people are just like, oh, it just has to be the oil. Yeah, it's the oil, but it's total control. They want more than just oil. They want total control. And so what their plan is to get a new governor or a new president reinstated and reinstalled in Venezuela that's more, along the lines of what they have in mind for being able to come in and take over things. Okay, because they can't come in and take over everything with the current president Maduro in power. And so that's what's going on. They already have someone they want to put in place down in Venezuela that's going to be pro US, let the US come in and maraud and raid and steal everything like they do everywhere. And so that is what the US is trying to set up down in Venezuela right now, y'all. Okay, so with this modern Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. wants to stop foreign governments from building influence in Latin America. So that means investments, ports, telecom, military, political backing. Okay, and so another big thing on the agenda for this national security strategy is migration. And so they consider this a top security issue. That's why y'all are seeing ICE out here in the street doing all kinds of efforts. Okay, so they're going to be doing the pushing for the stronger borders, pressuring countries to stop migrant flows. Y'all heard they're sending, starting February 3rd, 350,000 Haitians. So they're super targeting Haiti with this thing. Haiti, who, if you don't know the history of Haiti and how pivotal and how important Haiti is to the whole of Latin America and this region, you need to go study. Okay, they are targeting Haitians. They're sending Haitians back to a failed state because Haiti isn't even really like a normal country or anything like that. It's a failed state. It's non-functional. Okay, and they're living really rough down there. And so they're sending 350,000 Haitians back, totally targeting them. They're also targeting Somalians, which, there's a lot of controversy with them, but at the end of the day, they come from the continent of Africa and they're being sent back. So there's a lot of targeting, and we're noticing, oh, it's all brown people. There's a reason for that, because a lot of what Trump and them are doing is also about certain ideologies and certain whiteness ideologies. So they want to, kind of re-whiten in their minds America and kind of remove a lot of this invasion, this migration of brown people. Which, I mean, if you know anything about the real history of America, it was always us. It was always us there. It was never, about anything other than brown people. So the Europeans that came over are, Johnny come lately. They late, but they want to take it back over. They want to whiten it, want to flush it, and so that's what's happening right now. So I don't know what that's going to mean for those of us who are actually indigenous to there, like Black Americans that are there, because that doesn't fit the bill. You know what I mean? Like if they want to whiten it, we don't fit that. So I don't know what the plan is with us. We already know what they've been doing, how they've been engaging with our communities and dealing with us. But it's like, so what's going to be happening from here? Okay. So, and I'm saying all this, and I like to talk about these things because people are trying to figure out where to go. And as of right now, with knowing that Big T in them is coming back into the Caribbean, not even the Caribbean, but coming back into Latin America. Because remember, they've been on break. They've been out of here for about 30 something, 40 something years. So they coming back to stir up some shit. Okay, big time. And they're already doing it down here in Venezuela. So it's like the question is this a safe haven? Is it going to be a safe place to move to? What are things going to be looking like going into the future with them trying to re-implement this Monroe Doctrine nonsense where they've taken over and have full control over all the governments here in Latin America? It's hard to say, right? The U.S. wants tighter control over supply chains in this area. Okay, so they want to be a source. They want Latin America to be somewhere where they can source minerals, materials. They want it to be a buffer zone for Chinese manufacturing dominance. And you know what that means? They want to do something called near shoring. So basically, near shoring is about removing the manufacturing they've been doing way out in the slave labor down here in Latin America and in the regions. Okay, so they're trying to take all their operations from way out damn at the other side of the world and bring them near shore around these areas. So basically, what you're going to be having is a lot of governments that are going to have to be willing to work with the U.S. government to implement these slave, these sweatshops and all these things to get manufacturing popping the way it needs to be, so that the U.S. can continue to be exporting all of these things to all of these different countries around the world. Is what's going on. Okay, so it's going to be more focused on lithium, copper, grain, energy, biotech, semiconductor components, ports, logistics, all of that stuff. Iron ore, a lot of that comes from Brazil. Brazil's really big in that. There's going to be more U.S. involvement in regional crime networks. So then that's why you see them with this not proxy, but this absolutely very, very concerning attack on, boats in the Caribbean Sea, claiming that they're doing it for the purposes of drug traffickers. But we know it's really not that. Okay, so we can't believe the hype in the mainstream media with that. They're not down there because they're worried about traffickers. Okay, they're down there because they want submission of that government so they can install who they want into presidency down there. Okay, um, and so one of the things that they say in this new national security doctrine that they just put forward is that, any countries that are seen unfriendly may face U.S. pressure. Okay, so that means any countries down here in Latin America who are continuing to do business with Russia, Iran, with the so called rivals, with China in particular, will be facing things like sanctions, trade punishment, aid cuts, diplomatic pressure, loans being blocked at big institutions, limitations on visas. Okay, we can expect forced remigration, things like that. These are the kind of things that they have in store for the regions of the Americas around Latin America and the Caribbean right now. And y'all, we need to be ready for this because it's changing the landscape of things. Because a lot of us are coming down into these parts and thinking we are escaping stuff. And at the same time, yes, our quality of lives are drastically improved in these parts of the world, but I don't know for how long. Because knowing that the U.S. is going to be stirring up all this stuff, it's hard to say how much how much longer you'll be able to really experience a peaceful experience down here in Latin America. For those of you who don't know, pretty recently, I think it was on the Day of the Dead, so October 31st. I think, yeah, it was on Day of the Dead. Out in, and I don't remember all of the different regions of Mexico, but they had executed a mayor, public execution of a mayor out there. And so there's a lot going on because the U.S. is supposedly meddling in affairs down in Mexico because that president, so beyond that, the mayors and certain, political figures, including the president, are not super pro letting U.S. do whatever the hell they want down there. And so then you have this issue with them meddling in Mexico's affairs already. The U.S. government has already just threatened Colombia last week because the Colombian president has been calling out a lot of the bull and the crap with these boat bombings, fishing boat bombings down in the seas, in the Caribbean seas, down by Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela. And of course, Venezuela, that president, he's hemming and hawing in a certain type of way. He's trying to hold a strong face. But at the end of the day, they aren't necessarily prepared for no major attack in that way, even though supposedly China and Russia are there as reinforcements. So, he's been kind of going back and forth. It's hard to say, but I will say they've stopped with the outright bombing of the boats, I believe. I haven't heard about a recent one, and so there's a lot of rethinking of their strategy down there going on right now. But it's just kind of, giving you an understanding of how they're getting started already. They're already in the process of trying to do their takeover of Latin America right now. And so, yeah, for those who are looking for places to live, it might be time to start looking. I'm not saying don't come down here. Maybe we have time. Hi, Brazil Subtitled. I watch you. Maybe, maybe we have, time, but it's hard to say right now because it doesn't look good. Brazil, are you up on geopolitics? I feel like you are. I watch your broadcast sometimes. Brazil Subtitled. I know you're super bilingual and seem to be paying attention to what's going on, but it looks really concerning right now. And I can only think that with Brazil being the powerhouse that it is, and it's such a incredibly, first of all, huge country. I think it is one that people would approach with a lot of hesitancy with anything. But yeah, I feel like Brazil's a big target. I mean, it's BRICS. It's an incredibly huge country, powerful country, the most powerful country in Latin America. Like, you can see what's happening, and it's really upsetting because it's my favorite country in the world. I would never want to live here, but I speak to people who are looking to leave here. But I speak to people who are trying to figure out where to go in the world, and it's hard to say with everything that's coming down the path, whether Brazil is going to continue to be as stable and as a good place to immigrate to going into the future, because I can just see Brazil's a target. They're not being very vocal and outright about it, but there's reasons for that. When I saw Maduro, the minute he got threatened, ran over the border into Brazil, I was like, okay, yeah, we can see what's going on here, right? So yeah, y'all, if you are not watching what the plays on the geopolitical, side of things, you really need to be paying attention right now. It's not a game. And for those, and most of the people I know are in the Caribbean on down and in Central America, and in terms of people who are expats and or have moved abroad or whatever. And now is not the time to just be business as usual. We need to be paying attention. We need to be focused on making sure we make good decisions with our movements right now. and just being very strategic because they're at it again, folks. The American regime, imperialistic America, they're back at it. They never stop, but they're going full force, and their target, one of their primary targets outside of Asia right now, in terms of causing as much rift as they can on that side of the world for China, is Latin America. They want this area. They want to put sweatshops down here. They want to, make it their near shore manufacturing hub. That's the plan, you guys. So if you want to get more of I think it's important that we read the entire doctrine, if possible. But the National Security Strategy Doctrine, as soon as you put it in Google, it will pop up. The PDF is there on the government website. You can get to understand why this guy is doing this basically illegal bombing down in the Caribbean Sea and bombing out fishing boats of all things. I mean, you can tell these are not boats that are trying to traffic anything, and why he's making such a big fuss down there and harassing the government of Venezuela. You know, we can see. So we can see what's happening here. And so I think it's good to get your mind out of mainstream media and start to find alternative sources so you can understand what's really going on instead of just being programmed with the original, very stupid narrative of this being about wanting to stop traffickers from sending, of all things, fentanyl, something that doesn't even come from Venezuela, into the United States. I mean, this is how the stupid they think Americans are. But a lot of Americans are not educated. They're not educated. They don't have a geopolitical understanding. They don't have language skills. They're not, they're not up on what's going on in the world. And they allow mainstream television to program their minds. And not just television, but they stay looped into a lot of very, very programmed media sources. So they don't really understand what is really happening and what the US government is actually out here doing, how much trouble they're stirring up all over the globe right now, okay? And we have to understand this. It's so funny. I live here in Brazil, and I mean, the people are so nice. And, when they see that I'm from America, they're just like, oh, I feel sorry for you. You're here instead of in the US. I mean, people actually still think the US is a great place that's doing well economically. People are living well. Like, people are literally like living like peasants out there right now. The homelessness population, the inability to eat healthy food because it's really not even there, the inability to afford food, the absolute degradation of the economy. People can't find jobs. Like, people do not understand how messed up the United States is. Yeah, Mark, Brazilians do think that. Yeah, it's real weird to me because I'm like, wow, I thought, and maybe it's because of the algorithm I'm tapped into, obviously, I thought that everybody was realizing what a joke the United States is. Soft paper to blame. Hollywood. Yeah, it is. It's the movies. It's Hollywood. It's all of that. I'm very I feel very sad about it. And I always make sure to let them know, no, it's not nice at all, actually, to let people know, that it's, and they're always shocked when I say that because I'm American. They think all Americans are going around waving American flags. It's like, yeah, no, we're not. I couldn't stand that country. I've never been able to stand that country. And I'm talking, I've been traveling internationally, living abroad with my kids, first my daughter, and now both of my children, the bulk of the last 20 years. That's how much I detest this place. Not saying the U.S. is bad, just saying Brazilians think it's heaven. The U.S. is bad. It's bad. There are still people who are doing well there, but when you talk about the masses of the population and how people just are not being able to afford basics right now, it's bad. If you did not get yourself to a position of having, a very high income, a lot of assets and things like that before the pandemic, you are in pure suffering right now. And almost everyone out there is losing their jobs, getting laid off. There's so many, it's just so much information out here about how bad it is there right now. But I guess, again, depending upon your algorithm, you won't necessarily see that stuff. No, it's far from heaven. It's actually horrible, and it's horrible for the people that live there. And meanwhile, the president is going around worried about trying to control Latin America and harassing countries that he needs to stay out of their business. Just harassing other nations. In Israel, doing this, doing that, threatening to bomb. Nigeria just has his hands in all kinds of craziness all over the world. 80% of Brazilians I know would change Brazil. I know, and I don't know what to tell people. I just tell them what I understand and know as an American who has pretty much tried to stay out of America for many years, but I go back and forth sometimes, mostly not. Mostly I'm just gone. But it's a terrible country. It's always been terrible. It's always been a bully country. They've always been with either a hidden hand or a very direct approach, pushing imperialism across the planet. It's always been a horrible country, and it will continue to be a horrible country. And people need to wake up to it, to the reality of it. It's sad. There's a lot of nice people there, and there's a lot of people who don't think for themselves there. They're not the brightest, and so they don't think for themselves. They're very programmed, so they don't understand, and so they project the same concept about America all over the place. They think they know, but they don't know, and you really can't break away from it until you start to take in alternative media sources, until you leave the United States, because the programming is very heavy when you're there. When you start to leave and stay gone for longer periods, then you start to wake up and break out of it. But no, terrible. And I mean, people, it's unlivable. People that I know who have been working 10 years, at a university, for instance, losing their job because of these hiring cuts that they're doing, or not hiring cuts, but these cuts that they're making to employment. I mean, they've lost what, 1 million jobs, 1 million jobs in the last, I don't even think it's been a year. There's no, that is not a safe space. I get why Brazilians think like that. It's the material things, the financial standpoint. It's the car, the house, and money, as if that would make them happier. Yeah, but I think a lot of Brazilians, I mean, I know I've always had Brazilian friends because my first time living here was in Salvador back 24, 25 years ago. And my friends, I have a lot of friends that were Brazilian Americans, and they're all back here now. So I think people over time and spending enough time in the United States begin to see through it, and everyone has come back home and seem a lot they seem a lot happier here. Brazil offers a good quality of life to me. People just do not understand that there's a lot of countries that offer a much better quality of life than the United States. And that's why so many of us are trying to be expats and are traveling all over the world right now, trying to get the hell out of there because it's bad. It's bad. People can't afford food. So many people are homeless. People that are, hardworking individuals. They've been working, they've had jobs, they had careers, are now homeless. Oh, I live in Villa Madalena. So I'm just at a park by my house. Yeah. So you all, just saying all this to say that check into the national security strategy document. And yeah. Oh, you didn't know. Did you think I was in the States? Oh, Villa Madalena. Yeah, I live kind of very close to Aspicuelta, to the strip. But I love the part of Villa Madalena that I live in. It's just wonderful. I mean, I love this city. First of all, Sao Paulo is the best city I've ever lived in. And this is my second time living in Sao Paulo. I've also lived in Salvador. I've lived in Itacaré, in Bahia. Ah, I know. I've seen a lot of your videos. I know you do your walking vlogs and you bike sometimes. And yep, thank you. It's very bad. I hope. Oh, Maria, yeah, I know you found me through Substack and have been telling me that you're going through a lot. I hope, I don't know. I hope people just find a safe space and find a way to be okay no matter what. Like, if you stay in the United States, I think it's imperative that you get as off grid and sovereign as you can. But if you leave, you also need to be thinking about what's happening again geopolitically, because there might not be that many perfect safe places to run to, especially now with the U.S. launching this new, kind of a campaign to kind of regain its strength as the number one global leader, because that's all they care about, is being seen as the leader of the world. Okay, and so they know that they're losing a lot of trust. A lot of people are starting to wake up and seeing the United States for what it is. And so, because of the impact of social media putting it out there about how horrible everybody is living in the US, how bad it is, how there are so many other countries you can have way better quality of life. That's out now. So they feel like they need to regain power again and change the narrative. And how are they going to do that? By trying to take over this region, Latin America, and trying to, kind of push China down, because they're very concerned about China, because China really is way wealthier. I'm sorry for you guys concerning that, but my best friends today are Americans, and I have a huge respect for you guys. Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I know you seem to have a lot of American people that you associate with. I've seen from your broadcasts. Yeah, Americans are great, and can be very, very bright and interesting. Um, they can also be really, really not good, and very hard to deal with, and cocky, and so there's a lot that Americans move around with because of the programming of us coming from the most powerful nation in the world. But as we know right now, that just is not the case, and a lot of Americans are suffering really bad right now. It is just terrible. Like, if you even began to put in the homelessness crisis, the food price crisis, the grocery shopping crisis, the employment crisis. There are so many crises taking place in America right now. Now, we know Brazil will probably say the same thing is happening here. Okay, so it's not like all over the world countries are not going through things. But remember, this was a country that had been pushing itself out to be, the wealthiest country in the world. With the most up to date, all of the technology, everything. No, it's really not like that out there. Even when I come to Brazil, it's more technologically savvy and easy to maneuver and do things here than it is in the United States. The United States is actually behind. It really is all a big lie. It's a big sham. It's a scam. And the United States has always been a scam. And so, yes, you might go there and enjoy the cleanliness of some of the cities and towns, and, the way certain things look on the outside. But what's really going on is that the average person can't afford to be there, and definitely is not having a good quality of life, all the way down to what they're eating. Because, as I don't know, how educated folks are, but the United States has some of the worst quality food that you can imagine on the planet, because they have allowed big tech to come in and manipulate pretty much all the food that is sold in the stores. So you actually can barely even get authentic food here. When I go to and Pomada Villa and some of the grocery stores where I can get organics and things like that here in the Villa Madalena area, it's like night and day to what I could get in the average store in the United States, which is really waxed fruit, fruit that has been tampered with, food that has been genetically altered. You can tell by the taste, you can tell by the feel, you can tell by the absolute crisis in health that is going on in the United States. So many people are sick out of their minds, from mental to physical, because of the food alone. And we won't even get into all of it. There's such a long list of things that are problematic. And I don't want to dog the country that I was raised in, because I never liked it, but I know that for some people it's, I guess considered a place that gives them a sense of security when they come from places like Haiti, or countries that are really, really destitute, and now here they are, because of this new national security strategy, looking to do things like deporting all kinds of people who have migrated to the U.S. for safe haven, for asylum. Now they're kicking those people out, pushing them back into their already extremely, problematic and politically unstable countries. So they're not acting as a safe haven for people anymore, which is interesting, because Brazil, on the other hand, is a huge safe haven for so many. Like, they allow people to get asylum, or at least be here while waiting the asylum process for long periods of time. So it's just totally a different energy. Now, in the United States, they're not even welcoming people who are coming from war torn nations who are, they're not letting them stay. They're kicking people out. A friend of mine says he feels bloated living in Brooklyn. Whenever he comes here, he says he loses weight and feels much better. So that's true. Yeah, and I used to live in New York City, and I've lived all over America. Your access to actual healthy and not just healthy food, because you might be someone who eats really healthy. You like a lot of produce, you like a lot of good stuff. The quality of those things is what the problem is. When I eat fruit here in Sao Paulo, even, I'm not even in Itacare right now where everything was coming straight from the farm. I'm in Sao Paulo. The quality of the produce, if I go to a street vendor who's selling produce, or even when I go into the co-op, not the co-op, but into the Instituto to Chão or to Pomar da Villa, the quality of the food, you cannot even compare it to the United States. The US, I can't stay there long because of, my health has to stay up to par. And so I can't afford to go and stay somewhere where the quality of the food is so low that you begin to feel sick and your body doesn't feel right very quickly after being there. And that has been my experience. I mean, I think in the last 7 years, I have probably spent at most a month and a half in the United States. Feja Libre, exactly. We go to the farmers markets. We go, like I said, there's really lovely actual stores here in Villa Magdalena. So I don't want for anything in regards to healthy, nutritional food that was grown in a way where it still actually has nutrition. Because, you guys have to understand, I have a background in organic farming. And in the United States, everything is shipped from all over the place. And, once that food is cut out, it's taken out of the earth and starts to get shipped from all around, it loses all of its potency. So the nutrition that you're supposed to be getting, even from produce, is not there. And now you're talking about produce that's also being genetically modified heavily, tampered with. They're actually creating fruits and vegetables that we've never even seen or heard of before. It's literally like Frankenstein food. And this is what people are living off of. This is what people are living off of out there. That's why you see the level, the school shootings, but that's a whole nother thing. But this is why you see so many people acting out, acting insane. The amount of psychopathy, the amount of sociopathy that is prevalent in American culture. The mental breakdowns, the amount of femicide, people killing their families. You know how common these things are in the United States? It's insane. And so, not to say that we don't have those things everywhere in the world, but the rate at which these things are taking place in the US, there is no comparison outside of, maybe like a war torn country, like that's specifically in some kind of, warfare right now. That is obvious because we can't say the US is not, but that is, obvious and blatant. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. I can't do it. And so, but I am considering, you know, um, what it's going to look like here in Latin America going into the future because now it's a target. It is a target for the United States government right now. And for me, again, Brazil is so wealthy, so powerful. I can only imagine that it's probably one of the targets that's highest up on the list, especially with it being part of the BRICS alliance, right? So, yeah, we don't know. We'll see what happens. I've got my eyes on Venezuela. I have so many friends in the Caribbean. I just think about how the island that we usually live on in the Caribbean when we're not here is a United States Virgin Island. So basically, they're taking a portion of the airport and are using it for staging, war staging as of right now. So had we still been on the island, we would have been dealing with U.S. bringing in their different warships and their different things, importing them at our island, and now using a portion of it to get ready to go in and harass a sovereign nation that they want control of, and we would have to have been a part of that. You know, absolute insanity. I want nothing to do with it. So yeah, and I don't even want to be a part of anything. I don't want to be anywhere or, and it's really sad because the level of programming is so extreme that though the U.S. Virgin Islands is actually an actual colony of the United States as of right now, and Puerto Rico and other U.S. properties there, even though they are colonies and are very aware of what it has meant for them to be colonies of the United States and the horrors. Despite all of that, so many people were so excited to see these warships on their way to Venezuela and to the bottom of the Caribbean at our ports, because it means more soldiers are going to come and spend money on the island. And the governor of the island chain was super excited to support the U.S. efforts in Venezuela so we can stop the traffickers. So it's just a propaganda machine. It's all about propaganda, and everybody believes the propaganda and they just support it. So yeah, y'all, that's about it. It's a beautiful day here. If you're thinking about coming to Latin America, you do your research. I would definitely do your research. The countries that I think are definitely on the hit list: Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico for sure. They have their hands in things in Nicaragua, in Honduras. Uh, Costa Rica is about one of the only countries in these regions that's actually quite neutral, which we've also lived in Costa Rica, and it's nice. It's not Brazil at all, but it's a nice country. So it is something that you might consider if you're coming to Latin America. But the hit list I see is definitely going to be Mexico, probably Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela. Um, in some of these, who knows about some of these other South American countries, because they have their alliances go in different directions typically. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And then Central America, oh God, Panama. Which way Panama is going to go if anything goes down. So yeah, it's a lot. I would do a lot of research before coming down to Latin America, right now. And, I don't know where other options that people are looking towards these days. I know a lot of people are looking at Thailand and have been taking off to Thailand as of recent. Um, some people are looking at the Balkans because of the quality of life and the cost effectiveness of moving out there, plus the open immigration and how they are allowing you to come stay for long periods. So, the Balkans might be an option. In this Monroe Doctrine 2.0, that is basically like the Trump version, because he wants to get his legacy out there and sealed in history as being the president that basically puts the U.S. back on top, right? And so this Monroe Doctrine 2.0, the Trump version, is is I kind of forgot my train of thought. But yeah, that is going to be all about taking over this region. They did discount and act like they didn't really care about Africa that much. So maybe going to Africa might be an option for those who are looking to leave America but aren't sure where to go. Countries in Africa that seem to be um, offering a good, safe living for Americans: Ghana. A lot of people like Ghana. A lot of people are liking Senegal, the country that I married in and lived in for quite a while. My son is half Senegalese. A lot of people are also enjoying East Africa, so maybe Kenya, Botswana, Rwanda. So there are countries, Tanzania. There's quite a few countries in East Africa, and a lot of people are enjoying South Africa as options. So, you really want to dig in. You want to see what the long term kind of reality will probably be looking like for any country that you are deciding to choose to go to. You don't want to just choose randomly right now, because they're really revving up for another Cold War, basically. Okay, so it's Cold War 2.0. And if you choose the wrong place, you might end up caught up in it. And from not the best, perspective as a outsider in another country that's engaged in, you know, political issues, serious ones, and war and things like that. So we have to be really, really thinking about our future as expats, as travelers, as people living globally, and where is the best safe haven for you and your family in a realistic way, and not, just checking out and being like, I left America, I'm good now. Because remember, their influence is large and wide, it reaches far and wide, and it's extremely toxic. So anywhere America touches, goes in and says it's trying to help, says that it's trying to be a support system to, or that it wants a regime change in, or anything like that. Anywhere they go, any place they touch, they destroy. Okay, so we can say that by looking at Iraq. You just anywhere America goes, the legacy is, destruction. And so when they have their eyes on things, you have to be paying attention. And that's what I know. Is anyone else in here? Hey, 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 y'all. This is my little park here. It's so green and nice. I love here in São Paulo, we have a lot of nice city parks. And I love it because Brazilians love to be outdoors and they're very sporty. And I mean, right now, obviously, people are at work and stuff. But always there's going to be sports or even, music, people playing instruments and sambas and different things. Everywhere you go is just so lively, especially on the weekend. So I just love that about Sao Paulo. So yeah, y'all, great place to be. I wouldn't deter anyone from coming to Brazil. We have a great quality of life mostly in most parts of Brazil. But I would just say do your research. Have you gone see the Christmas decorations at night? Let's see. My daughter and I were in um, that São Bento. What's that plaza? I can't pronounce it. Angambau, Angambau. We were there last night, and they had Christmas decorations over around São Bento and around there. So I've seen some of that. But where are you talking about at? Down on Paulista? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Arangabao. Yeah, we were just there. We were at a salsa party in Say. Uh-huh. So massive, amazing. Yeah, that is so funny. I will never be able to pronounce that word, but the whole downtown is decorated. I didn't even notice, like, I guess because yeah, but we did walk around and try to look at some of the decorations. And yeah, we were there. We were dancing. They had a big dance festival there, right there in the Valley, what they call it, the Valley, right there. And that was fun. And Paulista Avenue, lots of tourists in the city. Okay, yeah, I was thinking about going to Paulista this afternoon because I need to go to Henne. But yes, love this city. I hope we stay stable and good here. But yeah, yeah, many languages on the subway. Lots of languages, huh? It's a great country. I can see tourism will continue to pick up if everything stays good here because a lot of people are learning about how amazing Brazil is. And I just feel like I've been coming for so many years, but I feel like that's been one of those best kept secrets. But now people are, super curious about Brazil. Even though, I mean, I think a lot of people sleep on Sao Paulo, but I think Sao Paulo is becoming now, people are like, oh, it's safe-ish, it's nice. It's diverse. It has everything. Ooh, the subway's gonna work 24 hours on the weekend. Oh my gosh, that's big. Yeah, Brazil, like São Paulo, you guys do not sleep. If you do come to Brazil, you don't want to just run through. A lot of people think São Paulo is just about, arriving to Brazil and then launching out, but it's actually an amazing city all on its own that definitely deserves time. And personally, I just prefer it. I prefer it to anywhere else I've lived in Brazil. And I especially prefer it to Rio de Janeiro because I know a lot of Americans are being drawn to Rio, which is nice, but I wouldn't like, no, I would not take Rio over Sao Paulo at all, despite the incredible views. So, and I would be, very aware if I'm going to Rio de Janeiro. But mostly people do fine down there. But I can't do it. I didn't, the last time I was there, I was robbed yet again, and I just cannot do it. But yeah, cool. All right. Well, everyone, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday. I'm sure I'll be back on here before then, but I hope everybody's having a good season, blessed holiday season. If anyone has any more questions before I get off, feel free to ask below because I'm going to jump off and get on with my day. I got to work here in about an hour and a half, so I won't have time to go down to Paulista, but yes, you guys. Life is good. Life is good. And I just did this video not to fear monger, but just because I know people are seriously looking for like long-term places to go. Oh, you too, Mark. It was awesome having you on here. Thank you for asking me so many questions and then being so, like chit-chatting with me so much. I like to come on and talk to people when I'm on here. So that is awesome. And I will try to come on some of your videos. It's been a minute. I have definitely seen a lot of yours, and I know you're in real estate, which I'm actually going to be. I want to buy a shakara. I want to buy a small, property, like a small house for me and my children out here, more like a farm with more land because I have the background in agriculture. So I know that's more outside of the city. But yeah, that's what I am looking for. So yeah. All right, you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful. Just waiting a second. I hate to cut people off when they're going to ask me something. If anyone has any questions or comments too, feel free to ask me anything down below in the comments. Oh, and please put a like on the video, y'all. I will be contacting you. Find my free when funds get right. All right, darling. Have a wonderful holiday. Take care of yourself, you guys. I help out with consultations. I do a lot of things. I'm going to post it in the profile. Consultations for travelers, for people who are looking to move abroad with their families, anything like that. I got you. I've done a lot of that. It can help people, plan out their process and make it happen. Okay. So, yeah, connect with me and take care. Have a great day.